Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another installment of ISV Success Live. It's hard to believe we're already on episode 93. We wanted to bring back an amazing, not just partner, but they're also not just an ISV, but they're also an SI as well. And so welcome back HSO, Andy, and Whit. And so before we get started with both of them, let me give everyone some context, housekeeping items, in case you've never come across this event before. So we do this for the BizApps ecosystem just to ensure that we are providing not just potential buyers, customers, but also our Microsoft selling organization and other partners for P2P, partner to partner, just visibility to what our Dynamics ISV ecosystem looks like. And so it gives us an opportunity to have a really rich conversation in 30 minutes to just, you get to know people in the channel and you get to know the amazing IP that exists. And HSO, and particularly HSO Pro Serve, what we're talking about with professional services, is a great opportunity to learn more. Throughout the event, we'd love engagement. So if you're watching anywhere around the world, feel free to type in the LinkedIn window where you're watching from. And in the introductions, we'll do a quick shout out. So you can see in the bottom little ticker, we're just asking for, hey, where are you watching from? And if you put that in the LinkedIn window, we'll give you a quick shout out at the very beginning. Second is that during the event, if there's a question you want to ask, because this is a live show, feel free to type in your question in the window, and happy to potentially ask that of Whit and or Andy towards the end if there's a specific topic or question that you want to ask. And then finally, if there's engagement, like as you're listening to this and you find that it's resonating with you, feel free to utilize one of the emoji icons, like, support, etc., because that also gives us some indication that the content is actually resonating with people listening. So without further ado, Whit and Andy, thank you so much for taking the time on a Monday. It's already hard to believe it's tax day. So for those of you who are familiar, or for all of us in the US, hopefully everyone got their taxes done or filed an extension. But before, let's get started. So maybe we can start with you, Whit, and then we'll go to you, Andy. Talk about what's your role in HSO, and then what's one thing not on your LinkedIn profile, which gives people an opportunity to learn a little bit about yourself virtually. So Whit, we'll start with you.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. It's great to be here. And, from my standpoint, my role at HSO is to drive and manage the global ProServe business. So across the whole HSO footprint worldwide. So as anybody who knows me is aware, I've been involved in this for about 20 years now. So the Microsoft ISV program has been huge for us. And then from something that's not on my LinkedIn, something that's close to everybody from yesterday's Masters, looking at Scotty Scheffler and the success that those guys have, I am a terrible golfer. And, it's just impossible to compete at that level. So, Brian, thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
I know, my pleasure, Whit. I just, as you said that, I was curious because that looks like a paddle from a golf tournament where it says Hush. Is that from a particular golf tournament that you were at, that you were able to get that little paddle?
It's our local course here in Atlanta used to be the host for the Bell South Classic.
Oh, okay, great.
And anywhere else in the world, they don't know what hush y'all means, right? So so that's the sign they used to hold up so everybody be quiet.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. Yeah. So Andy, we'll go over to you. We'll put you in the spotlight. And again, what's your role at HSO? And then what's one thing not on your LinkedIn profile? Even though you might remind us, and we were talking in the pre-show, the fact that you were on a few years ago when we had HSO and HSO Pro Serve on, but maybe you can either change up the answer or give potentially the same one.
It'll be a coincidence if it's the same one, but first, Whit, next time I look at your LinkedIn profile, I would like to see terrible golfer listed there. Lifelong duration, right? So Yeah, so I have a similar role to Whit, but more focused on the U.S. business. So I help build and drive our go-to-market strategies, working with our marketing and sales and business development teams in coordination with Microsoft to really take our solutions to market and go help win business here, mostly in the U.S. One thing that's not on my LinkedIn profile is actually my old summer job when I was in college, and even all the way back to high school. I worked construction in the summers, and most of that was being on an asphalt crew, putting down roads, or concrete crew, laying curbs and driveways and things like that. But in doing that, I learned how to operate all kinds of crazy equipment like backhoes and bobcats and air hammers, all kinds of stuff. So much respect to the folks when I drive through a construction site. I have a lot of respect for those guys because they work pretty hard, but you won't see that on my LinkedIn profile.
I love it, Andy. Well, hopefully you kept your hard hat or your orange vest or something as a memorabilia from that time.
Yeah.
Hopefully it wasn't in like Arizona, because every time I go to Arizona, it usually goes once a year, and I see the asphalt crews out repaving certain roads in Arizona. I always like, oh my gosh, those people do amazing work, because it is super hot. I don't know how they can stand laying asphalt in like 100-degree weather.
People don't realize is the asphalt comes out at like 240 degrees. It literally melts your boots as you stand on it. So yeah, crazy.
Yeah. Well, I love it. So before we get started into our first question, let me do a quick shout out for everyone who has commented in the window. So, hey, thanks so much, Lincoln. Hopefully I'm saying your name correctly. Tuning in from the United Kingdom, England. Thank you so much. Timia, thank you for tuning in from Seattle. We also have another Seattle person, Luz. Thank you so much. And then sometimes it does this. I think this is actually James. I don't know why, James, it shows you as anonymous, but I'm just looking down on my phone because I can see it that way. So thanks, James, for watching, also from England. Another England, David, thank you so much for tuning in from England. And then Brenda, depending on where you're watching from, thank you so much for allocating the time. So let's go ahead and get started. And for those who have never heard of HSO before, and I'd be surprised, Whit and Andy, because both of you particularly have been in the Dynamics ecosystem for such a long time, but most people know what HSO does. And of course, for anyone who saw the little preview of the video at the beginning, maybe you could just educate the people listening, either live or the replay, kind of the perspective of what are the joint outcomes? What do we solve? What are the business outcomes we solve? And granted, HSO broadly does a lot of stuff, but when you think about the sweet spot you guys are in, maybe you could touch upon the combinations of the business outcomes that you help to solve in partnership with Microsoft.
Yeah, so maybe I'll kick this off and you can pile on top of that. But yes, like you said earlier in the intro, HSO is both a global ISV, but also a SI. So we are also out selling and implementing our solutions as well. So obviously we do that on a global basis. From a GISV perspective, we really think about it in the context of two different perspectives, right? How do we work with Microsoft to build and then sell? So kind of the build with and sell with side of things. So just a couple of things on the build side. What we really do is take this great Microsoft technology, these great platforms that Microsoft builds, not just with the cloud technology, but with Dynamics in particular, and we pre-configure that and we extend it so that it meets the needs of very specific industries or vertical markets. So it really turns Dynamics into a purpose-built industry solution, really closes that gap of that last 10 or 20%, let's say, of the solution that makes it work for not just an industry, but a vertical market within an industry. And part of the reason we do that is so that when we go to market with Microsoft, we can compete more effectively against these niche or vertical software companies that exist, and be able to win consistently. So a couple examples real quick, in the architecture engineering industry, for example, there's a couple of very proven niche competitors like Deltek and BST. They've been in the market for 20 or 30 years. That's all they do is serve that market. Without IP, it's really hard for Microsoft to go with it in there and compete, because you just don't have, again, that 10 or 20% that meets the unique nuances of how an architecture engineering firm works. Also similarly in the legal sector, if you think about legal software technology providers, very established players like LexisNexis and Intapp, that's all they do is build software for legal. So without IP built to do the same thing on the Dynamics platform, it's really hard for Microsoft to compete effectively. So that's why we build that out, is to help drive go-to-market activities like that. From another angle, we also take these Microsoft products and do build them out a little bit more on I'll call it a cross-vertical basis, but we really lean in when Microsoft introduces new technology that maybe isn't quite mature enough yet to go win consistently, or needs to be further built out to really compete against some more mature vendors. We do that a lot as well. So a recent example is around Dynamics 365 project operations, which is fairly new. I think by most people's admission, it's not as mature as some of the other offerings in the market. So we've worked very closely with the Microsoft engineering team to take this great platform and enhance it so that when we do go to market together, we have a better chance to win. So those are a couple examples on the build with side. I think Whit, you may have another example or two on the other Microsoft platform technologies.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Andy. So, along the same lines, Microsoft had this huge initiative, or has this huge initiative surrounding the Power Platform. And the good news about the Power Platform is that, it's massively flexible and broad and fits a multitude of different scenarios. Our clients just really didn't have the ability to look at that platform and be able to figure out, how's this going to help my business? So our HSO ProServe team, working closely with Microsoft, what we were able to do is to take the Power Platform and basically productize it around these industries and even further into the sub-industries. So if it was an architectural firm or an engineering practice or construction company or law firm, accounting and consulting, what we actually created was a Power Platform for legal, or Power Platform for architecture and engineering. And what it allowed us to do was to adapt that broad solution into a scenario that fit for a very particular purpose, these different sub-industries. So from that standpoint, we were able to leverage what HSO had built from a cloud application platform development group and from a data and analytics scenario. So for us, it represents an extension to our biz apps applications, and it differentiates what HSO and HSO ProServe are able to do in the marketplace. The next scenario that relates very, very specifically to that is this whole Copilot and OpenAI and ChatGPT. And I mean, it's the hottest topic out in the marketplace. So everybody is trying to figure out, how does this work for my business? How can my business really take advantage of what the television commercials say, right? So we've worked really closely with the Microsoft product teams to help develop AI solutions that fit as an extension of the Power Platform and our biz apps. And we've nominated a number of our clients to participate in workshops. So we're gonna figure this out for our clients, and we're gonna take it to market, and we're gonna demonstrate that this technology can be used to really accelerate your businesses.
Yeah, no, thanks, Whit and Andy, for the great intro. And you think about in the ProServe area, and you mentioned, and Andy mentioned, a number of the solutions that are out there, but those legacy solutions we are talking about is like, how do you help it to expand and provide that level of complexity to drive more broad scenarios, including generative AI and Copilot, and making sure that those types of things, and as those innovations come out, how can those ProServe organizations take advantage of some of those things to make it more repeatable, more efficient, drive more revenue, because it's ProServe. Like, of course, how do people make money in ProServe? Billable hours. How do you drive more billable hours more efficiently across it? And I think you hit it spot on across all those things. And that's a good segue into, like, because both of you have been longstanding people in the ecosystem for as long as I've been at Microsoft and Dynamics. I remember in your former organizations that you've had, where you've had this IP and it's moved around to different places. But this core, you've been so successful, and same with Andy, so successful because you're addressing business problems with what customers try to do with repeatable IP, because people like the fact that, hey, this software can be deployed, but they also want to ensure that it's not just, oh my gosh, there's going to be a ton of like professional services to get this running. No, it's actually, we're taking stuff that we've already done and tweaking it to that. So maybe you can talk about just the HSO experience being as part of the Microsoft ecosystem, and what does that mean to growing the businesses together?
Whit, you want to take that one?
Yeah, from our standpoint, Brian, it's we're competing. Our clients, their legacy systems are these solutions that Andy was just referring to a little while ago. They've been in these markets for 20 years, 25 years. Traditionally, they're legacy on-premise line of business applications, and Microsoft out of the box doesn't have all the solution to be able to replace those systems. So what our teams have done is worked closely with these clients across the whole professional services sector to identify what extensions or what enhancements need to be made to the Microsoft platform to make these systems fit for these specific purposes. And I would not be being transparent if I didn't say that it was a decade of time associated with building these things out. But what we have, fortunately, through our relationship with Microsoft, is the ability to bring together the Microsoft product teams along with the clients and their requirements, and the HSO development teams to actually architect solutions that represent the business application cloud future for these different sub-vertical markets. So, Andy, you have some stuff you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think the core piece, right, again, as we build these solutions out, and again, to your point, we're doing it to meet the business needs within those vertical markets. But then really the magic is then taking that to market, again, working with the Microsoft field teams to build go-to-market strategies to help take these solutions to their accounts and go win business, right? So a lot of times that comes down to helping provide some education, some sales enablement, as we say, to understand, within your accounts, who are the buying personas that we want to target? What are the business problems that we're trying to solve? How do we do that in a differentiated way? So, the sell with motion is also obviously very important, and where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. So that's been a big part of what we've been working on over the years as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, Andy and Whit. And speaking of that, it's a good segue into our next one about like customer success. And one of the things I always enjoy, Andy, is like it's like clockwork. Every month I see multiple win wires coming across internally because, of course, I've a long-standing relationship with HSO and part of the DL where I see those things come across. So maybe you could talk about, and then we'll go to Whit as well, talk about some of your favorite examples of customer output, or what customers have experienced as getting value, because that's the biggest thing, is like the things you touched upon on being able to impact professional services organizations and other industries, but in particular the areas that you're focused on in professional services. Maybe you can touch upon a little bit deeper on what's that transformation been like with some of these customers that either migrated from legacy solutions or some of these competitive solutions, and the things they're seeing, and what you've observed in now that they're leveraging HSO and Microsoft to run their scenarios. What has that impact been for their business?
Yeah, I think there's obviously very specific improvements we're helping people drive by being able to infuse some of the ancillary Microsoft technologies like Teams and Power BI and so on within the context of these business applications. That's obviously something that's driving better collaboration levels, better visibility across the business. I would say one of the things that I think we are constantly solving for, in the professional services industry as a whole, is helping these organizations that have kind of grown by buying and implementing and stitching together a number of different disparate systems, right? And they end up with these disconnected processes, these islands of data. And they're really looking at this as an opportunity to bring that back together under more of an integrated platform so that things just flow more seamlessly across the business. And a good example of that just closed not too long ago is a company called Gulf Interstates Engineering out of Houston, which they provide engineering services and inspection services to the oil and gas industry primarily. But as part of their transformation, they were evaluating 5 different, solution providers out there, 5 different platforms or vendors. It was very competitive. Microsoft had initially brought in another partner, but to that partner's credit, once they got into the details, they realized that not only did they not have the IP they needed, they didn't have the vertical expertise to go in there and really present a compelling solution. So Microsoft was able to pivot and bring us in, and using our industry solution, our IP, our experience selling into the engineering world, we were able to help Microsoft beat out these other 4 competitors and displace a number of different vendors across CRM. So Salesforce got displaced as part of that. Oracle got displaced, which was their SCM platform, as well as a couple of other niche project management and accounting solutions. So we were able to, again, leverage this great IP and industry know-how to come win a very nice multi-workload opportunity across CRM, project operations, finance, supply chain. So a good example of these organizations kind of moving away from these disconnected, disparate systems into more of an integrated platform. So.
Yeah, and I love that, Andy. And I think that's the thing that also is that end-to-end value proposition that you and Whit talked about, which is some of these solutions out there either do the traditional, again, using industry terms, CRM, or they do ERP, but they don't do both. And then they have to figure out, okay, how am I going to stitch together an end-to-end scenario with this very in-depth IP, which is spot on, because again, when you think about why ISVs exist and thrive in our ecosystem, Microsoft will never do everything. We can't. There's just zero ability for us to think about every single scenario and have the depth of experience that's needed. And it was very evident, especially way back in the day where I got to know Whit back in the days of your former company, where you made you thrived in that scenario in professional services, especially legal, because Microsoft had never went into the depth that's needed to provide those specific scenarios. And which is, I love the scenario that you just described, Andy. So maybe Whit, do you have any favorite customer examples from your perspective? I know that you probably have a few that come to mind to kind of give the audience your perspective to complement what Andy just had shared from his.
Brian, for session number 100, we should do just client stories, because Andy and I could talk for hours. Yeah. But actually, you brought something up that's very very interesting. The professional services market under the Microsoft umbrella is not a prioritized industry. So for us, as part of the ecosystem with Microsoft, it was really important for us to have the ISV team to help us take this very large industry sector, which is highly diversified, and then figure out how we're going to message to the Microsoft selling organizations, the Microsoft industry organizations. How are we going to go to market, and how are we going to do that in a scenario where the average Microsoft seller may only have 2 or 3 professional services company as part of their account list. So from our standpoint, there's no way we could have enjoyed the success, had the type of momentum and acceleration that we have, had it not been for Microsoft by our sides to make sure that we were able to capitalize again on this professional services market as broad as it is. And then when you take my role right now, how do we take what's happening in the US and how do we replicate that across these other geographic regions around the world? So we're grateful for what Microsoft has done to help us to benefit from that. From a client story standpoint, there's 2 of them I'd love to point out. One is a very large global law firm that's based out of Canada. They'd gone through a significant merger. So they had UK, European, and Asia Pacific resources that needed to be part of this grand CRM platform. And in their case, anytime you bring professional services organization together, and professional services make their money by leveraging their relationships, how do we build this global CRM platform using databases from multiple systems that came along with these mergers to be able to come together to create one centralized location for understanding who knows who and who's connected to who and how active is the communications. So there's a group out of Canada. It's called Gowling, WLG, and we've worked very closely with the Microsoft teams across the world, starting in Canada. And again, without the Microsoft teams by our side, it would have been really difficult for us to establish the level of credibility that we needed to be successful in that pursuit. So that project's going right now, and everybody's pretty excited about it. And we think that it's going to change the way law practices use this type of technology, this type of a platform, to help grow their relationships and understand where they're going from a business growth standpoint. Another project that I'll bring up that ties back to Brian, you and Andy talking about multi-workload scenarios. There's a group based out of Coventry over in the UK called MTC, and it's a technology center that represents a joint venture between the British government, academia, and private industry that brings together these scenarios that need engineering to help develop products or solutions to real world problems. And they've grown to about 800 people. So we worked closely as the second partner that came in with the help of Microsoft to help take finance and operations, project operations, CRM, the Power Platform, and to build this integrated solution to manage their business and provide the reporting that they needed for governmental agency scenarios. We replaced almost 17 applications with this one platform. So they're live, operational, wonderful reference, and that was a fun project.
I love it. And what great stories between the two of you to kind of show the breadth and the depth of the possibilities of what HSO and HSO ProServe can bring in not just professional services, but in a global implementation as well. Because of course, sometimes people think, oh, this organization only does US or English-based speaking scenarios. And
right.
It's actually the opposite is true. It's like you have the opportunity to really scale and drive this at any located pretty much around the world in a global level. I know we're going to run out of time. It's hard to believe, like, oh my gosh, we already went through almost to the top of the hour. So I want to make sure that I respect people listening, etc. So maybe we can just accelerate this to cover off on two things. One is what's next, and then what are things that both you and Andy really want to call out as next steps? Because of course, as people come across this, not just watching live, but of course, the beauty of this being on LinkedIn is people will come across this in people's feeds and all this stuff, and they'll listen to this and going, oh, this is super interesting. How do I learn more? So maybe between the two of you in the last 2 minutes, you can cover off on, hey, what's next? And then what would you say is the next thing that if someone comes across this as a Microsoft seller, another partner that to what Andy, you mentioned, which is great. Hey, partner realizes I can't do this. I should pull you guys in. Or a buyer coming across this as a call to action. What are some of the things that between you and Andy you can talk about?
Yeah, very briefly. So we've enjoyed the success with ProServe in the US. We've started to enjoy a lot of momentum internationally. What HSO has just done is they've just announced a huge investment in something that we call HSO Studio. So we're taking all of our IP and our industry solutions and we're bringing it together from around the world, from all of our different vertical sectors. A gentleman by the name of Jeff Dunmall is going to be running that for us. And the goal is to replicate what we've done for professional services companies with our HSO ProServe across retail and manufacturing and financial services and public sector markets and not-for-profit areas, things along those lines. So let's take what we've done really, really well with this business model and let's expand it. So HSO Studio, you'll start to hear more and more about that from HSO as it develops and grows and turns into what we anticipate is going to be something that's very, very cool.
Love it.
Yeah, I'll just maybe close it out here since we're about out of time. But yeah, if anybody is interested in learning a little bit more about our solutions, what we do, obviously you can visit hso.com and navigate to the professional services industry page. We also do have some microsites you'll see out there for AEC360.com, legal360.com. We do have our solutions out in AppSource. So if you want to take a look on AppSource, you'll find them out there as well. And if you are a Microsoft field seller, we do have a special portal for you all that we call our HSO Gateway. It's at hso.com/gateway that you can request a magic link for your password, and there'll be all kinds of assets, artifacts, case studies, collateral, all kinds of materials out there that might help you as well. So those are some good resources if you'd like to learn more.
Yeah, and thanks, Andy. And I just put in, I tried to flash them up there. They're not clickable links, but hopefully people were looking at them. HSO, aka.ms/HSO, this HSO Industries, Professional Services, and then finally, and this is only for Microsoft employees, hso.com/gateway is good places to start. So with that being said, I want to thank both of you for allocating time on a Monday to again share all the great insights on what HSO and HSO Pro Serve is doing. And so before we go and run the video once again, any closing comments, Andy and Whit, before we close out the show for this round?
Andy?
No, just appreciate the opportunity to be here with you on Monday morning. And look forward to engaging with anybody that wants to learn more about what we do.
Brian, thanks for everything that you, your team, Steve Espelon, the guys, we wouldn't be where we are without Microsoft. So thank you all. And it's obviously very, very much appreciated.
No, thank you. Truly grateful for the longstanding partnership and looking forward to continuing to make an impact across different industries and in particular ProServe. So thanks again, Andy and Whit. And for everyone else listening, thank you for taking the time, either watching live or replay. If you just want to, again, aka.ms/ISV Success Live is where these shows actually end up on a YouTube channel. So you can see all the past ones that we've ever done and just enjoy the video once again that we'll share about HSO. Thanks again, Andy and Whit. Take care.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.